What is up? What is up? Alright guys, in one sec, put this up. It has been a while since I've done one of these, for sure. There we go. Whew. It's been a while since I've done a tech ride, thanks to all this stuff going on. But I got some pretty big news and I figured I'd share it with everybody. And then I'd kind of share my thought process behind it too, because, I don't know, I feel like, well, I guess I'll start with the big news. The big news is I did take an offer for a job and I start Monday, so that's some pretty good news. Now, that's not why I'm doing this video. I wouldn't want to do a video just say, hey, I got a job, you know, like, I'm excited, but that's not something I'd want to throw on the channel. The reason I want to make this video is because I was very, 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 very picky about the next place I ended up. During Corona, like a lot of other people across the world, you know, I got laid off. And I had this weird feeling, like my initial feeling was I was a little relieved. Even though I loved the people I work with, I loved the job itself. The pay was great, the benefits were great, like everything was great. The facilities were phenomenal, you know, but everything was great, everything was above par, you know, it was above the average by far of what you would expect as a software engineer in Kansas City. But when I got laid off from there during the peak of Corona, I felt relieved, like a little shocked, honestly, but more than anything, I was a little relieved, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it for the longest time, you know. And I kind of initially chalked it up just to, I guess, my entrepreneurial tendencies, like my way of thinking, you know. I kind of do well when I don't know what's next, you know. When I don't know what's next, I get scared, but I also get really, really motivated to just do something. And, you know, as you guys have probably been able to tell over the last couple of months, I've done a few somethings, and I've just been kind of going all in with a few somethings. You know, we did the Slim 4 authentication series. After that, I did 3 or 4 different open source projects, and then moved on to getting way back into the YouTube, and then also working on Clean Code Studio, the application itself, through all of that. So just having that time off to think, and plenty of time to think, right? You know, especially when we were all in quarantine. I really started asking myself, why did I feel relieved? Why did I feel relieved when I was laid off for Corona? You know, because I did love my team. I loved the job. The project was phenomenal. And, like, everything about it was just good. It was good. And, long story short, I don't know why I felt relieved. I can tell you this, though. Although I have no idea to this day why I felt relieved, but I do know it was, you know, something that, there was just something that was just a little bit off. That's nothing against the company, nothing against my former teammates. I have so much respect for the company and my teammates. It was a personal thing, I think. But I don't know what it was. And so, while I was, you know, doing the job hunt and talking to contractors and headhunters and recruiters and just doing the thing, I just decided, like, I'm just gonna take some time off, you know. I've got some offers, even though it's pretty hard to get them. I was still getting them. Honestly, I think a lot of it has to do with the LinkedIn and the GitHub, and now the YouTube channel. So I get enough people reaching out, and then when I was laid off, there were several team members who weren't, and they reached out to former companies on my behalf. They reached out to former recruiters, and nothing just felt right because I wasn't sure why I felt relieved when I was laid off. And it really, really, really messed with my head. So to sum it up, I didn't figure it out, but I did cue in or focus down and really clarify what I believe would make pretty much the perfect fit for a company or an organization to be a part of. And it's 4 or 5 different things. But the first one is leadership. Leadership. Whenever I was looking for my first gig or my second gig or my third gig, I really just undervalued how much leadership matters. Really, really undervalued it. And the fact is, the organization goes the direction that a leader, leads. And leading being the key word there. Like, if leadership's micromanaging, that's not leadership. That's managing, and that's terrible management at that. I wanted leadership that was passionate about whatever it was we were doing. So that was number one, is I wanted leadership that had a clear vision and honestly a personal reason for doing what they were doing. And I was able to find that, and I'm so thankful for that. Number 2 is I was working at a very, 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 very large ad agency. And I think this might have been one of the reasons that I felt a little relieved, but I'm not going to chalk it entirely up to this. I wanted to really have a team, and I did have a team there that was really passionate about what we did. But I also wanted to make it more of a overall singular vision of, okay, what are we working on? What's our goal? How come we're passionate? Who are we helping, and what are we improving? I wanted a clear, concise focus that the leadership and ultimately the team for the next organization I go to has. I found that. But one of the things that I think really benefits that is when the software is internal, when it's an internal application where the company owns the software. So to give you an idea, when I was working at an ad agency or a marketing company, we had some really, really big clients. This is the same company. Multiple Fortune 500 companies. And we're talking Ford, United Rentals, Heinz, ketchup brand, a whole bunch of stuff. And there's some really, really cool projects there. But I think whenever you're working for a company who works on other people's software, there's nothing wrong with the business model and there's nothing wrong with the people, but I think there's a little bit of passion that kind of dwindles away. There's a little bit of giving of responsibility, and it's, you're making this thing to make another company or organization successful, which is absolutely what you want to be doing. Like, you want to use software to make other lives better, other companies' lives better, other organizations. But in honestly, a super glorified marketing company, I found that being thrown between projects, and I wasn't thrown between projects very much, but just having people in general switch between projects kind of hurts the ability to truly grow passionate to the same extent as if you're working at Google and you're working on Google's search engine, or you're working on the YouTube for Google, or you're working on Google Drive at Google. It's all Google. It's all singularly focused, and it kind of comes back to that leadership and that team, I guess, just mold. And I feel like working on software that is internal to the organization, that the organization owns, and that's ultimately how they make their income, and they pay they pay everybody in the company. It's how I think a better way of wording that is, if we're in the organization, it's how we pay ourselves. When we improve this thing, it's how we pay ourselves. Whereas at the marketing agency, I felt like so many times it was just, let's just do the job well enough. And these were big jobs, but so many times I felt like, let's just do the job well enough, make sure we get the hourly rate, and in the long run, it ended up growing the code base and it added complexity, and we didn't do all the steps that we should have been doing and we could have done. And it was pretty blatant that there was just a large sum of money lost on some of the projects there. And I think that a lot has to do with I'm going to say the lack of, I don't want to say lack of leadership, because leadership there is good, but I'm going to say the lack of vision. Because leadership can be good, but I was looking for phenomenal leadership. And when you're working on everybody else's stuff and you're worried about the hourly rate and you're worried about, just not just improving the product, not just making it so it's more extendable and more expandable and more powerful and honestly simpler as it expands, which is a hell of a lot of work. You're just like, okay, let's meet this hourly deadline. Let's meet this hourly deadline. Let's meet this hourly deadline. Like, we have to get here in this certain amount of time, which you're always going to have in software. But whenever you're working for a company that works on other companies' software, the deadlines are, and honestly, the communication to actually get those deadlines and figure those deadlines out, there's just a lot more there, and it becomes, in my opinion, a pretty decent distraction from just focusing on the software and the code and the value and and then the customer at the end of the day and whoever you're adding value to. There's just a lot of intercommunication whenever you're working for a company that works on other companies' software. And sometimes you get put with other third-party companies that, personal experience will say, some are phenomenal, some are not the most enjoyable to work with. So the first is good leadership. The second is software internal to the company, that the company owns, something like Google. Like Google works on Google software. I feel like that aligns the vision. The next thing I wanted was a company that was past the startup phase, meaning financially secure, and before they hit, honestly, it was like 500 employees, and I kind of had a little room for movement depending on the growth potential of the company. But I wanted to be at a place that was past the startup phase and had plenty of room for growth potential, and they were growing. During Corona, it's really, I think it's really easy to see which companies that are smaller but growing are going to do really well, because if they're doing well right now during such a hard time that it's Corona, then long-term wise, then, oh man, that just seems like good news to me, considering how hard the economy's been hit, and now it's coming back, but when it was really bad, and if you're able to grow through that time, then that's good news. And so the company I actually am going to started Monday, they have, it's around 200 team members. They are growing very, 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 very fast. It's a really cool industry. And they're projected to hit like 4,000 to 5,000 employees within 5 years. Now that's a projection, so cut that in half usually. But honestly, if any company could do it, I feel like it's them. So growth potential. Yeah, that's the next one. So leadership, working on a project internally to maintain the team vision more singularly, and then to go to a company that has growth potential that is pretty much a place where you can grow with the company, and it will, both teach you what you need to learn, about going from small to medium to large, scaling, horizontal scaling at that. But more than anything, you can grow with the company. And so if you're at a humongous company that's just been kind of stagnant for the last, 5-10 years, and they've just been big, but they haven't been growing, they haven't been shrinking, they've just been doing, their annual, maybe growing a little bit each year, just doing their annual. It's really, really hard to gain seniority there to the extent of standing out without a whole bunch of tenure, which is like time at the company, which I completely understand. But I also feel like one of the things that gets overlooked when you're at companies like that, like the really large companies that are pretty standstill and just really slowly creeping up, and maybe they're creeping down too. They just overvalue, in my opinion, tenure. Yeah, they overvalue tenure. Just the time there in direct comparison to a given skill set. It's the boys club, right? It's like, oh, hey, I've known this person, I've known that person, and we've been buddies for 20 years, and I completely get that. And there's definitely a huge importance on social just interaction when it comes to a job, right? Like, as much as we code, we should be just as good as at our soft skills, at our empathetic skills, at empathizing, understanding, and communicating, and just being a good person that people want to be around, and just trying to just do the right thing when you know to do the right thing. And we're all gonna do stupid things and say stupid things and make stupid mistakes, but at the end of the day, you should just be a good person at work and empathize and always lead with respect, always assume the best of intentions. So if you're not sure, but maybe that, your coworker just kind of says something and you're like, what'd you say? I misunderstand you there? What was that? What are you trying to tell me? Are you like, worked up? At work, don't get worked up. It's work. Always assume the best intentions at work. And honestly, it's a good mantra for your entire life, in my opinion. But at work especially, if you always assume the best intentions, you'll always, you always look for the best and the good in people. And so I kind of wanted a team that exemplified that. But I also wanted a team that felt like a family, that was fair and wanted to do more with their thing, with their company, with their organization. They just had so much passion for it that they cared about the value, increasing the value of whatever it is a team does. It's a group of individuals, of human beings. And I like working for teams and families, honestly, at the end of the day, who just have a shared singular vision of what is going on. And it's not by the whip, it's not micromanagement. Nobody likes that at all. It's respect and understanding we're going to do the right thing as an organization, that we expect a lot, we don't expect everything, we expect the enjoyment of the daily work as a passion. We want people that are going to be here and want to be here and enjoy being here and just love the job. And that, in my opinion, is just, it makes all of the difference. It just makes software engineering so enjoyable when you just have people that are passionate, that are interested in this thing, that are honestly want to grow a company and organization and add value to the end person that we're adding value to, the people, the other people, the people that depend on our product, on our service, on whatever it is we do. And I really wanted to focus in on that. So my phone's actually about to die, guys, so